Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Allen. I want to do a reflection for Good Friday. Uh, I thought it would be a good time to think about the cost of the crucifixion in our lives. Our church for Palm Sunday does something a little different. Normally, I get palm trees and have people cut their own palm branches to take home. The palms behind me have been denuded of their palm fronds, broken and crushed. They look pretty sad and empty. The cross itself, the purple and the majesty of Christ, is covered now with a red cloth indicating the blood and suffering and shame. I think about a world that we live in where everything seems to be broken and crushed, where everything seems to fall sadly to the side. I thought about what it must have felt like for Jesus' disciples during those hours when he was hanging on the cross. Everything had seemed to be going the right direction. They had hope and a sense of purpose and direction. Jesus had tried to dispel that for them, but, well, like most of us, we tend to hear what we want to hear and see what we want to see and pretty much do what we want to do without the understanding of the tremendous cost that is involved. Calvary was a tremendous cost for God. We have sanitized pictures of what happened. Our sanitized pictures are done in bold and bright colors. They are done in the idea of ease and in a sense of proper artistic evaluation. But there was nothing about that day that was artistic or heroic. It was painful and sad. It was a moment when everything seemed to be coming apart for everyone. I like in Luke's gospel what was said. Jesus, on the way to his crucifixion, stops for a moment and talks with some ladies that were disciples. He says to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For indeed the days are coming in which they will say, Blessed are the barren, wombs that never bore, and breasts which never nursed. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and the hills cover us. For if they do these things in the green wood, what will be done in the dry?" The image that Jesus is trying to get through to them is that we live in a fallen world. We live in a world which is broken, and there is real evil in the world. I wish I could say that it weren't. And to be honest with you, there is real evil in the hearts of humans. Humans are capable of doing some of the worst atrocities imaginable. And that is a sad and sorrowful thing. Jesus says, even when things are at the beginning of the process, when there is truth and justice that are known, and he's talking about his own nation of Israel. They were people that had followed God and understood that, but he says, even in light of all of that, look at what's happening. What's going to happen when all of that sense of morality, that sense of responsibility is stripped away? What kind of people will we be? Jesus understood that going to the cross because what he was doing was the only solution for this process. It was the only way in which it could be dealt with in their lives. I think sometimes we tend to think that suffering and sorrow and difficulty are easy things to deal with. The hope of victory and success had been swallowed up in one moment by the unrealized expectations. The palm trees were cut and shattered. The cross was covered in blood. The king was ripped and torn and naked and in shame on a cross, dying as a slave and not as a king. On his way to the cross, the Roman soldiers grab a man, it says, coming in from the field, a man, Simon from Cyrene. What is interesting is what is said about him in Mark chapter 15. In Mark chapter 15, we are told that he is the father of Alexander and Rufus. He was a working man, a guy coming in from his work, and he's grabbed and dragged into the middle of this whole affair. Why does Mark tell us who his sons are? Well, that's because they were believers. In fact, Paul mentions one of them, or at least we believe he mentions one of them in Romans chapter 16, verse 13, where he says, "Greet Rufus as well." So this experience in Simon's life evidently led him to a place of faith. In the midst of this sorrow and the sense of a king who was dying and the sense of the world coming apart at the seams, this man, Simon, finds Christ. He's not the only one who comes to this conclusion. It is strange that in this moment of suffering, that there were two people who seem to have come to some understanding of faith. In fact, three of them, if you want to count a thief who was dying with Jesus. There was Simon, who carried the cross for Christ. There was a thief who was crucified with him. And then as he died, there was a Roman soldier who had probably just a few hours before been also jeering at this man, Jesus, as they nailed him to the cross. But now at this last moment, when Jesus had cried out, "It is done," this man says, surely this was the Son of God. All of these people come to faith in that moment when it seems like despair has swallowed up hope. And yet, in that moment, all three of them seem to have come to an understanding that really justice had been met. The requirements of the justice that God had set in place in the universe from its creation, that humanity by its sin had violated, God met that on the cross. And then, in the same moment, he extended his hand of mercy and offered to us grace. That is the most profound thing that happened, that we celebrate this Good Friday. Jesus Christ offered himself for us. It was a working man coming in from the field that caught the first glimpse. It was a thief in the throes of his own death that caught that. It was a mocking Roman soldier whose heart was grabbed hold by the realities of Christ's sufferings, that understood in that moment the grace of God. I hope you understand what your salvation cost God, what Jesus was willing to do for you. I hope you're having a wonderful Good Friday. I know I am, because of the grace of Christ. God bless. Take care. We'll see you a little bit later.